If you're a woman over 40 and single, whether by choice, by circumstance, or by recent change, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That voice that whispers, "Is this it? Is this all there is for me?" Society has a cruel way of making us believe that being alone means being incomplete. But what if I told you that the very loneliness that sometimes keeps you up at night could become your greatest source of power? I see you, I hear you, and more importantly, Mel Robbins sees and hears you too. But here's what's fascinating. While Mel has spoken extensively about confidence, action, and overcoming fear, here's a profound insight about solitude and loneliness that isn't often highlighted in her work. An insight that could completely transform how you experience being on your own.
Mind myth.
Let's be honest about what it feels like. The holidays with well-meaning family members asking if you're seeing anyone special. The wedding invitations that still say "and guest," even though there hasn't been a guest in years. The friend groups that slowly morph into couples-only dinner parties. The dating apps that make you feel like you're shopping for a human connection in a discount bin. The nights when you accomplish something amazing at work or in your personal life, and there's no one there to high-five or hug. And beneath it all, that gnawing fear. What if this is permanent? What if I'm alone forever? Society bombards us with messages that a woman's worth is somehow tied to her relationship status. That being single after 40 is something to fix, a problem to solve, rather than a potentially rich and fulfilling state of being. The weight of these messages can be crushing. You start to wonder if there's something wrong with you, if you've somehow failed at this thing called life because your path doesn't include a partner right now. Before we dive deeper, let's clarify something crucial. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing. Loneliness is the painful feeling that occurs when there's a gap between the social connections you have and the ones you want. It's the emotional response to perceived isolation. Solitude, on the other hand, is simply the state of being alone, which can be either painful or profoundly peaceful, depending on how you relate to it. As Mel Robbins often says, your feelings are not facts, they're suggestions. Loneliness is a feeling, not a fact about your life or your worth. And like any feeling, it can be worked with, transformed, even alchemized into something powerful. What I'm about to share with you isn't just about coping with being alone or getting through until someone comes along. It's about a radical reframing that turns what many consider a deficit into one of your greatest assets. It's about transforming loneliness into sovereign solitude, a state of being that's not just tolerable, but genuinely empowering. The first step in this transformation is understanding something that Mel Robbins touches on in her work on confidence and self-worth, but rarely applies specifically to being single: the power of selection versus rejection. When you're single, especially after 40, it's easy to feel rejected by life, by potential partners, by the narrative you thought your life would follow. But what if you flip the script? What if, instead of seeing yourself as rejected, you recognized yourself as selective? Mel often says, you can't control how you feel, but you can always choose how you act. This applies profoundly to how you frame your single status. Are you single because you've been rejected, or are you single because you've been selective? Because you refuse to settle for less than you deserve? Because you've chosen your peace, your freedom, your standards over relationships that would diminish you? Think about it. How many relationships have you seen where one or both people seem trapped, diminished, constantly compromising their joy, their goals, their very essence? Now ask yourself, is avoiding that really a failure, or is it an act of profound self-respect? One of Mel's core teachings is about honoring yourself enough to make choices aligned with your highest good. Being selective about who you share your life with is the ultimate expression of that self-honor. It's not about being picky or having impossible standards. It's about recognizing your inherent worth and refusing to dilute it in exchange for simply not being alone. The second transformation is one that draws on Mel's famous 5-second rule, but applies it specifically to this context. Moving from a state of waiting to a state of creating. When you're single, there's often this underlying sense that your real life is on hold, that you're in some sort of waiting room until your person arrives. You might find yourself saying things like, when I meet someone, then I'll take that trip to Italy. Or, when I'm in a relationship, then I'll buy the house I really want. This is what Mel would call living in the when-then trap. And it's a trap because it puts the power to start your life in someone else's hands. Someone who may not even exist yet. Mel's 5-second rule is all about taking action before your brain talks you out of it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. It's about seizing control of your choices rather than letting fear or habit run the show. When applied to being single after 40, it becomes a powerful tool for creating your life now, not waiting for someone else to help you start it. What's that dream that's been on hold? The trip, the move, the career change, the home renovation? 5 to 4, 3, 2, 1. Start it now. As Mel says, waiting is a waste of your time and potential. Your life isn't on pause. It's happening right now. And you have the power to fill it with experiences that light you up, with or without a partner. When you shift from waiting to creating, something magical happens. The desperate energy of needing a relationship to complete your life dissolves. You become magnetic in a whole new way, not from neediness, but from wholeness. And ironically, this is precisely the energy that tends to attract healthy relationships, if and when you want one. The third transformation draws on Mel's teachings about comparison and self-judgment, but with a specific focus on the single experience, moving from comparison to cultivation. Social media makes it all too easy to fall into the comparison trap. The perfectly filtered couples photos, the engagement announcements, the still crazy about you after all these years anniversary posts. It can feel like everyone else got the memo on how to find lasting love, and somehow yours got lost in the mail. Mel often talks about how, the moment you start comparing yourself to others, you've lost your power. This is doubly true when it comes to relationship status. Every time you measure your life against someone else's highlight reel, you're devaluing your own unique journey. Instead of comparing, what if you focused on cultivating your relationship with yourself, cultivating your space, making your home a sanctuary that reflects and nourishes you, cultivating your interests, your friendships, your community connections? There's a depth of self-knowledge that can only come through periods of being on your own. Use this time to become an expert on yourself. What lights you up? What depletes you? What are your non-negotiables? What kinds of people and environments help you thrive? This isn't selfish, it's essential. As Mel would say, self-care is how you take your power back. By cultivating a rich relationship with yourself, you're not just passing time until someone else comes along. You're building the foundation for every other relationship in your life, romantic or otherwise. The fourth transformation is perhaps the most powerful, and it's one that Mel Robbins hints at in her work on anxiety and fear, but rarely applies directly to the fear of being alone, moving from fear to freedom. Let's name the fears, shall we? The fear of growing old alone, the fear of having no one to care for you if you get sick, the fear of never experiencing deep romantic love again, or perhaps for the first time. The fear of being seen as unwanted, left behind, or somehow defective because you're single. These fears are real and they're valid. But as Mel teaches, fear is not the problem. Waiting to stop feeling afraid is the problem. You don't need to eliminate these fears to move forward. You need to act despite them. What would your life look like if you stopped organizing it around avoiding the pain of loneliness? If you stopped making choices based on the fear of ending up alone? Maybe you'd speak up more in relationships rather than people-pleasing to keep someone around. Maybe you'd hold out for a truly compatible partner rather than settling for whoever seems good enough. Maybe you'd invest more deeply in friendships and community, creating a network of support that doesn't depend on a single romantic relationship. The freedom that comes from facing these fears head-on is extraordinary. When you're no longer driven by the desperate need to avoid being alone, you can make choices from a place of authentic desire rather than fear. And that, as Mel would say, is where your real power lies. So how do you actually make these transformations? How do you turn theory into lived experience? Let me share what I call solitude strength training, practical steps inspired by Mel Robbins' work that specifically address the challenges and opportunities of being single after 40. First, create rituals that honor your solitude rather than just filling the silence. Maybe it's a luxurious morning routine that would be impossible with a partner or kids around. Maybe it's taking yourself on regular artist dates to feed your creativity. Maybe it's a Sunday evening practice of reflection and intention setting for the week ahead. The key is to approach these moments not as consolation prizes for being alone, but as sacred opportunities for self-connection. Second, build what Mel might call your courage muscle by regularly doing things alone that scare you a little. Dining solo at a nice restaurant, traveling to a new city by yourself, attending an event where you won't know anyone. Each time you do something that challenges your comfort zone, you prove to yourself that you're capable and self-sufficient. The confidence this builds spills over into every area of your life. Third, curate your environment to reflect and support your authentic self. Your home, your wardrobe, your schedule. All of these can either drain or enhance your energy. Without the need to compromise with a partner, you have the freedom to create surroundings that truly nourish you. Don't underestimate how powerful this can be for your overall well-being. Fourth, develop what Mel calls anchoring relationships. Deep connections with friends, family members, or community groups that provide emotional support and a sense of belonging. These relationships aren't substitutes for a romantic partner. They are valuable in their own right and essential for a rich, connected life. Finally, practice what I call future self-empathy. When those fears about growing old alone creep in, don't dismiss them. Instead, ask yourself, what would make my future self feel secure and supported? Then take one small action toward creating that security. Maybe it's putting more into your retirement account. Maybe it's strengthening your health. Maybe it's building a chosen family of friends who share a commitment to caring for each other as you age. Now here's what Mel Robbins hasn't explicitly told you about loneliness after 40, but what her work points to when you connect the dots. The most profound transformation isn't just learning to be okay with being alone. It's not even about being happy while single. It's about recognizing that your capacity to be truly at peace with yourself, by yourself, is actually your superpower. Think about it. In a world where so many people stay in unfulfilling or even toxic relationships because they're afraid to be alone, your ability to be happily solitary is radical. It means you make choices from a place of want, not need. It means you can say no to what doesn't serve you and yes to what does, without the clouding influence of relationship desperation. This is what I believe Mel is really getting at when she talks about self-trust and inner authority. When you know, really know in your bones, that you can be whole and happy on your own, you stop giving your power away. You stop accepting crumbs because you're afraid of an empty plate. You become, perhaps for the first time, truly free to create a life and relationships that reflect your highest values rather than your deepest fears. And here's the part that might surprise you. This transformation doesn't just change how you feel about being single, it changes everything. Your work, your creativity, your other relationships, your sense of purpose. When you're no longer pouring energy into the black hole of loneliness avoidance, that energy becomes available for creation, connection, and contribution in ways you might never have imagined. So here it is, the insight that Mel Robbins' work points to, but doesn't always explicitly state. Your experience of being single after 40 isn't a failure of timing or worthiness. It's an initiation into a kind of power that many people never develop. The ability to be genuinely at peace in your own company isn't just a consolation prize while you wait for a relationship. It's a spiritual and emotional achievement that many coupled people never attain. It's the foundation of unshakable confidence and authentic choice. This doesn't mean you have to want to be single forever. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be open to love if that's what you desire. It simply means that your time alone isn't wasted time or lesser time. It's powerful time, transformative time, time that can forge you into a person who knows her own worth so deeply that she never again needs external validation to feel complete. As Mel would say, you are one decision away from a completely different life. And sometimes that decision is simply to see your solitude not as a problem to be solved, but as a power to be embraced. So here's my invitation to you. For the next week, I want you to try something. Each morning when you wake up, before you do anything else, place your hand on your heart and say to yourself, my solitude is not a punishment. It's preparation. It's not a deficit. It's an asset. And today, I will use this gift of time with myself to grow stronger, wiser, and more authentically me. Then share in the comments below, what's one way you've transformed or will transform loneliness into power in your own life? Your story might be exactly what another woman needs to hear today. Remember, you are not defined by who's beside you. You're defined by who you become through every experience, including this one. And the woman you're becoming through this experience of solitude, she's magnificent.